Imagine that you're at a networking event, you're surrounded by professionals, music is playing, everyone's dressed sharp, and conversations are buzzing all about recent promotions, exciting travel opportunities, and new partnerships. You smile, you engage, but deep down you think to yourself, what am I doing here? I feel completely out of my league. It's a feeling that so many of us face in a world that values success and status, like we're constantly trying to prove ourselves. And when we don't measure up, it's easy to feel like we don't really belong, like we failed in some way. In those moments, we even begin to question our own self-worth. There's an almost physical weight of feeling not enough. It's a kind of restlessness. But if there was a way to let go of that need for validation, what if our self-worth wasn't tied to our failures or achievements, but to something far greater? It's a kind of restlessness. But what if there was a way to let go of that need for validation? What if our self-worth wasn't tied to our failures or achievements, but to something far greater?
It was a rare day off, a treasure hidden amidst the jungle of deadlines and business meetings. For the first time in ages, the man found himself alone. Kids, off to school. Wife, busy at work. The house, peaceful. And the man, miserable. He flopped onto the couch, remote in hand, ready to embrace relaxation like a long-lost friend. 5 minutes in, he realized relaxing wasn't his thing. He cycled through channels like DJ scratching records, growing increasingly agitated. Cartoons, news, infomercials, a cooking show? No, absolutely not. Is this what people do? He muttered, staring at the ceiling. How is this fun? The silence of the house pressed in on him. His mind whispered cruel thoughts. Shouldn't you be doing something? Aren't you supposed to be productive? People love you because you work hard, not because you sit. And that was it. Relaxation was canceled.
When we celebrate success, it's easy to feel like our identity is tied to what we achieve. Whether it's through our career or relationships or our social image, society teaches us that our worth is something we need to earn. A 2021 study by Mental Health Research Canada found that 35% of employed Canadians reported experiencing burnout. Marianne Bainton, Director of Collaboration and Workplace Strategy for Mental Health, also says the number of Canadians reporting burnout is cause for concern. She also adds that while it's not considered a mental health illness, burnout can be debilitating and long-lasting. These findings highlight the significant pressure young professionals face to perform, often leading to burnout. And while ambition can be healthy, the constant pursuit of more can wear us down, leaving us questioning our own value. As Timothy Keller once said, if your identity is based on achievement, you're always going to be insecure because at any moment you could lose it. And for many people, they feel like their worth is only as stable as their latest accomplishment or job title. But when someone's identity is tied to what they do, failures and setbacks feel personal, like they're losing pieces of themselves each time. But what if our worth isn't something we have to earn? What if instead it's something we've always had? Imagine a life where you're free from the pressure to constantly prove yourself, free to experience fulfillment that's deeper than just your latest achievements. What if true value is found in being known and accepted no matter what? Is this just wishful thinking? Maybe it is. But what if it's not? Let's find out.
Fueled by the vague sense that productivity might have his soul, he finally decided today was the day to take care of a few minor issues that had been nagging at him. His wife had told him countless times, "Call a professional." But not today. Today he was going to be the hero of home repairs. He tackled them all with the enthusiasm of someone auditioning for a reality show called Extreme Home Maintenance. This, he thought, tightening a loose screw, this is why they love me. I'm maintaining the fortress. I'm saving money. I'm a genius. The scene opens with him already deep in battle with a kitchen drawer. It's been sticking for months, but today it's public enemy number one. Toolkit by his side, staring it down like it just insulted his family. He tugs the drawer open and it groans in protest. "Ah, so you want to play hardball," he says, smirking. He gets to work. "There you go, buddy. That ought to do it," he says, pushing the drawer back in. It slides.
You know, this pressure to achieve and look successful is nothing new. In fact, we're conditioned that way from an early age. From getting good grades in school, landing a high-paying job, or creating the perfect social media account, we've been encouraged to believe that who we are is only as valuable as what we've done or how we look like. But here's the dilemma. What happens when life doesn't turn out the way you planned? What happens when you don't meet expectations? When you're not where you thought you'd be by now? Maybe you're at a crossroads in your career right now, or perhaps a relationship ended that you thought would last forever. Suddenly, the achievements you once relied on for your sense of self are gone, and you feel lost, wondering, who am I if I don't have these things? You know, there's a story that was told more than 2,000 years ago that hold the key to breaking free from this struggle. It's actually a parable that speaks directly to our modern struggles with self-worth and identity. The story gives hope to you if you're struggling with these things because it's still as relevant today as when it was told back so many years ago. The Bible records a story in the book of Luke told by Jesus. It's about a father who had two sons. Now imagine the younger son as someone you might know, maybe a young adult who is eager to escape the expectations placed on him, looking for independence. And he feels that to find himself, he has to leave everything he knows behind. And so he approaches his father and does something shocking. He demands his inheritance up front. Somewhat like today, but especially in that cultural context, asking for one's inheritance early was like basically saying, I want what's mine, but I don't want to wait until you die. It was deeply hurtful. It was disrespectful. But the father, with sadness in his heart, actually grants his son's request. And so the son heads off to a far country, imagining freedom, adventure, and fulfillment. And for a short while, he lives the life he always dreamed of, spending his inheritance lavishly. And since his father was very wealthy, he buys the dream house with a yacht and a helipad. And he fills his multi-level garage with all the latest toys and hypercars. He's surrounded by friends and luxury. He's finally living free and by his own rules. But then reality hits. The market takes a turn for the worst. The money runs out. And soon after, he loses all of his friends. The parties dry up, and he's left broke, hungry, and desperate. To survive, he takes the lowest job imaginable. And at that time, it was basically feeding pigs. And for a Jewish man, this was unthinkable. Pigs were considered unclean animals. Luke chapter 15, verse 16 says, "The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him." He's literally hit rock bottom, both physically and emotionally, feeling the full weight of his not so good choices.
By noon, he leaned back, sweaty and triumphant. His kingdom was secure. He could finally relax a little. But just as he sank into the couch, his phone rang. It was his wife. "How's your day?" she asked. "Productive," he said. "Great," she interrupted. "What about the TV?" "The TV?" Oh no, the TV. The old one in the basement. The one he had promised to fix. For weeks, his wife had been asking him to sort it out before their daughter's slumber party. He had assured her it was no problem at all. Except it was a huge problem because he didn't have a clue how to fix it.
Have you ever hit rock bottom before? The moment you realize that there's no way out. There's no way to borrow more money, no way to escape your situation, no way to turn back the clock and start over again. If you ever have, you know the feeling of this young man. The son, once filled with pride and independence, now feels empty, ashamed, and unworthy. He starts to believe that he's lost not just his inheritance, but his identity. In his mind, he's no longer a son, but just another failed person with nowhere to go. And in a moment of desperation, he decides to go back home, but only to ask for a place as a servant, saying to himself, "I will go home to my father and say, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant.'" The son's return home isn't just a physical journey. It's the journey many of us go through when we've lost our sense of self. He believes his identity has been destroyed because of his mistakes and that his worth has been reduced to his failures. But what he doesn't realize is that his worth has never been based on actions. It's this truth that he's about to realize that will transform everything. As the son approaches his family's home, he's rehearsing his apology along the way. He looks up and he sees someone running toward him in the distance. He realizes that it's his father, who had been watching and waiting for him every single day. Before the son can even utter a word, his father runs up and hugs him tightly. This isn't what the son expected at all. He had prepared himself for rejection, for judgment, for being treated as nothing more than a servant. But instead, he's met with love and acceptance. How can this be? In that moment, the son realizes something incredible, something true. And that is that his worth was never tied to his actions or achievements. His identity as his father's son never changed, no matter how far he walked away. Luke 15 verses 20 and then 23 and 24 beautifully captures the father's reaction. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. "We must celebrate with a feast, for this son of mine who was dead and has now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found." This is a life-changing moment. The son is realizing for the first time that his identity and worth were never in the things he did or didn't do. The father didn't see his son as a failure or a disappointment. He saw him as his child, someone he loved unconditionally.
The TV sat on the counter like a sleeping dragon, daring him to approach. He stared at it, hands on hips, feeling equal parts resentment and terror. "It's just wires and buttons," he said aloud. "How hard can it be?" harder than he thought. After 15 minutes, he bent over the counter, surrounded by screws, cables, and regret. "Why did I promise this?" he groaned. "This isn't fixing a TV. This is art restoration." He thought about calling a repair shop, but that would cost money. The whole point to save money and look competent? His brain raced. What if I ruin it completely? What if my wife tells everyone? What if my daughter tells her friends? What if they laugh at me forever? The stakes had never been higher.
This story Jesus told was to teach a powerful lesson to the people who heard it back then and even to us today. Because it teaches that our worth isn't defined by what we've done or earned, but by the love of the one who calls us his child. This realization is powerful, and it's the same kind of love that Jesus offers to all of us. It's a love that doesn't ask us to prove ourselves, but instead invites us to come as we are, regardless of our past. And in a world that measures us by our achievements, Jesus' love, in contrast, offers us the freedom to be defined by something much more profound. The story Jesus told of this prodigal son mirrors what so many people experience today. Take Chris Gardner's story, for instance, the man who inspired the film The Pursuit of Happiness. Chris faced severe hardships, including homelessness, poverty, and the daily struggle to provide for his son. Despite his circumstances, Chris never let go of his belief that his worth wasn't defined by his material success. Even when he had nothing, he believed he was someone of value, and that belief helped him to move forward, eventually building a successful career and providing for his family. The prodigal son's story, much like Chris Gardner's, remind us that our identity and worth aren't something we have to chase, it's something we're given. As author and pastor Timothy Keller puts it, Christianity is the only identity that is received, not achieved. You see, most cultures and even religions around the world say that you have to do something to earn love and acceptance, both from people and from God. But this is what's amazing about Jesus. He says you already have value, and he loves you not because of what you do, but because you are his child. Your worth is rooted in a love that sees you, knows you, and accepts you completely. At the heart of the story is an invitation from the Father to you and me today to just stop running, to let go of the pressure to prove yourself, and to return to a love that is profound and is unconditional. Imagine a life where your worth isn't something you have to earn. Imagine living free from that need to prove yourself, free from the feeling that you're not enough. What would it look like to experience the peace that comes from knowing you are loved simply because you are? Jesus offers each of us that love. It's a love that sees past our mistakes, our regrets, and even our failures and says, I have always accepted you, and I always will. The story of the prodigal son shows us that no matter how far we've gone or how lost we feel, we are always welcomed back with open arms. And so if you're feeling lost, burdened by the weight of unmet expectations, know that you don't have to carry that weight alone. Jesus invites you to just let it go and to find your identity not by the world's standards, but by his love. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a reality that can change everything. You might be thinking, well, that sounds great, but how do I do that? How can I practically let go of the idea that my identity is tied to what I do or what I achieve? How can I cope with the pressure and expectations that I face every day? Well, here are 3 ways you can do that to start. Number 1, practice daily affirmations rooted in Scripture. Start each day by speaking a truth from the Bible over yourself, by searching for Bible verses about your identity in Jesus and then reading them in the first person. For example, Ephesians 1 verse 4 says, even before he made the world, God loved me and chose me. Or 1 John 3 verse 1 says, see how very much our Father loves me and He calls me His child, and that is what I am? Writing these down and just saying it to yourself, even out loud, can be a powerful reminder to help substitute those false standards of your identity with God's truth about who you already are. Number 2, create a God's hands jar. Once a week, reflect on any pressures, regrets, or comparisons you felt over the past few days. Write them down and then release them by placing the piece of paper into a jar labeled God's hands. This action helps you to tangibly let go, trusting your cares to God. And doing this every day can be very liberating and freeing. Finally, number 3, participate in acts of service without recognition. Look for ways to serve others anonymously, whether through a simple act of kindness, maybe volunteering, or meeting a need in your community. Because by serving others without seeking acknowledgement, it helps detach your actions from the need of validation, allowing you to experience the joy of just simply giving. It's a practical reminder that your worth isn't based on recognition, but on living out the love and grace you have received in Jesus. What if you woke up every day with the confidence that you're valued not for what you've done, but simply for who you are? That's the freedom Jesus offers. It's the freedom to live without the weight of striving, without the fear of failing, and with the assurance that you are loved unconditionally. Jesus' love doesn't just accept you as you are, it redefines who you are. You are loved, you are seen, and you have incredible value. Jesus wants to invite you to experience His transformation in your life, because the truth is, there is more to life than what the world can offer.
Desperate, he turned to the internet. Online tutorials promised easy fixes, but they may as well have been written in ancient Greek. After 30 minutes of confusion, he threw his hands in the air. Why didn't I promise to build a rocket ship? That would have been easier. He dialed his best friend, hoping for wisdom. Instead, he got laughter. "You're stressed about a TV," his friend said between chuckles. "Dude, you've got the money. Just buy a new one." "It's not about the money," he snapped. "It's about principles." "No, it's about your ego," his friend replied. "You're not a failure. You just stink at fixing TVs. Nobody cares." He hung up, feeling slightly better, but no less incompetent.
Reflecting on the story of the prodigal son, here are just a few practical coaching questions that can help you on your journey this week. Number 1, what does success look like for you? Think about what you've been taught to believe is the definition of success. Think about where those definitions came from. Was it from school? Was it your family, your culture, etc.? Number 2, what negative beliefs do you need to confront about your self-worth? Think about what beliefs have snuck into your life about your identity that aren't true, and where did they come from? Things like, I'm only valuable if I'm happily married with kids, or I'm not lovable because of my past mistakes. What would it look like if you confronted these lies? And finally, number 3, what would it look like to live in the truth that you are loved and accepted as a child of God? These questions are meant to inspire you to face the week ahead. Think about that 1% change you can make starting today that will change the direction of your life for the better based on this presentation.
He'd done it, or so he thought. The TV was back together, cables tucked neatly inside, the casing screwed into place. Sure, it looked a little lopsided, and there was an extra screw on the counter. "Okay," he muttered, "maybe I am a genius." With newfound confidence, he grabbed the TV and carefully lifted it off the kitchen counter. But as he took his first step, his foot caught on something. It was like slow motion. He watched in horror as it sailed through the air, hit the floor, and landed with a sickening crunch. This is why people hire professionals. With trembling hands, he pulled out his phone, snapped a picture of the now very much dead TV, and sent it to his wife along with a message. Drop the TV. Please forgive me. Her response came faster than expected. Are you okay? He blinked at the screen, momentarily confused. He typed back, yes, but the TV is broken. Her reply came immediately. It's okay. If you're okay, it's okay. He stared at the screen, rereading the message. It wasn't what he expected. For a moment, he just stood there, letting her words sink in. All the stress, the pressure to fix everything, to prove himself, it evaporated like steam from a kettle. He set the phone down, a weight lifting off his shoulders. In that moment, he realized something profound. He had spent so much time doubting his worth, thinking he had to prove himself. But love wasn't earned. It was given. There's more to life than skepticism. True peace comes when we accept that love is already there, waiting to be embraced.
If this presentation spoke to you today, I'd like to invite you to stay in touch with me. Follow More to Life on social media, where you can message me directly with any questions, prayer requests, or even just to give me updates on your journey. Whether you're searching for answers, needing encouragement, or simply looking for community, I'm here to support you. In addition, you can visit hopestudy.ca, where you will find an easy-to-use online Bible study platform with several interactive guides on a variety of topics like this one. We began today talking about the pressure to succeed, the weight of measuring our self-worth by society's standards. When we fall short of these standards, it's easy to feel like we've lost something essential, like we're not enough. But the story of the Prodigal Son shows us something remarkable. It shows us that our identity isn't tied to our accomplishments or our failures. It's anchored in unconditional love. There's more to life than feeling like you need to prove yourself. Imagine the freedom of living each day without the need to measure up, to constantly earn your place. The love that Jesus offers is a love that meets us exactly where we are, no matter how many mistakes we've made in the past. It's a love that redefines who we are, not as people who must earn acceptance, but as people who are already enough. What if you could stop measuring your worth by the world's standards and start experiencing the peace and the joy that's found in unconditional love? Your financial contribution helps Hope Channel Canada with ongoing production costs as we continue to provide valuable, life-changing programming across Canada. You can donate online by visiting agentsofhope.ca. And thank you for partnering with us and making Hope Channel Canada possible.